In another life, maybe Obafemi was not a rich kid. Maybe he was born into a very poor family where he had to soak Gary and groundnut for breakfast. It was all moot though, because Obafemi was born into privilege, and had grown up in front of the world's eyes. He was the most famous 29 years old in the city of Lagos, and being the son of a billionaire and a boyfriend to Obafemi, a popular Nollywood actress, kind of guaranteed that. He was very handsome and fit, with striking brown eyes, and a glowing dark skin to die for. Despite his entanglement with Obafemi was known as the ladies' man, and had string of broken hearts to his credit. "Baby, will I see you at the club tonight?" Obafemi asked gravely. The girl, Shorla or Shulzi, or whatever her name was, giggled on the other end of the phone line. "I don't know if I can get away from my family today, Oba. My big brothers are around." Obafemi rolled his eyes and leaned back in his office chair. "Babe, if I don't see you tonight, how will I give you the present that I bought for you?" he asked, thinking on the fly. "A present?" A giggle rang in his ear. "You got me a present?" "Ooh, what is it?" "A human hair, a designer bag, what?" "A gold necklace." Obafemi sat up and smirked as he jotted a quick note on a blank paper. The truth was that he didn't have any present for Shorla or Shulzi, or whatever her name was. These women were all the same for him. All he had to do was dangle a little bling in front of them and they would do whatever he asked them to do. He was under no delusion that these women were 99% interested in his money and influence, and he didn't feel bad using it to get in their pants. "I can get you anything you want, baby." "Have you forgotten whose son I am?" "Oh, how can I forget?" "Now tell me, Oba, what did you buy?" "You'll have to come to the club and see," Obafemi replied with a purr. Shorla or Shulzi finally gave in and agreed to see Obafemi at the club later that night. Obafemi might not remember her name, but he sure remembered her long legs, her obvious fake ass, and her blue eyes. Her eyes weren't natural though, but who cares when she was squeezing his dick so hard that he saw stars? Not him, that's for sure. Obafemi hung up the call and his executive assistant, Shelley, knocked on his office door and stepped inside. Shelley was absolutely stunning. She was wearing a cream-colored suit that showed off the lean lines of her body, and plenty of legs too. She carried herself like a woman who knew what she wanted, and unlike every other woman in this company, she was a tough one for Obafemi. "Your father's office just called, sir. He wants to see you immediately," Shelley mumbled. Obafemi shrugged. Only God knew what his father would lecture him about. "Fine. Shelley, can you handle this for me?" He held up a paper. Shelley took the paper from him, and her brow wrinkled as she read what Obafemi had written. "You need a bone-straight hair?" "Yes please." "Can you take care of that while I go see my father?" "My ATM card is in one of the drawers. My password is 2345. "I might try," Shelley whispered as Obafemi fixed her with a seductive smile. "Thank you, Shelley. I will be back later. Maybe after lunch." Shelley rolled her eyes, and Obafemi strode to the elevator that would take him up to his father's office on the top floor. A niggling thought ate him up while he ascended the floors. Getting called to his father's office like a stubborn SS3 student getting called to the principal's office made him feel a little peevish. As soon as he stepped out of the elevator, his father's assistant, Mrs. Abike, spotted him. "Mr. Obafemi, your father is expecting you." "Go right in," she said, and gestured towards his father's office door. Obafemi gave the woman a nod and a wink as he pushed the door open. His father's office was twice the size of his, with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the beautiful city of Lagos. The office itself was decorated tastefully, but a bit old-fashioned in Obafemi's opinion. Everything was leather, wood, and elegance. Ikasan, sir. You wanted to see me? Obafemi asked as he approached his father's desk. Mr. Chinubuwale looked up. He was large and physically imposing, and Obafemi took after him. He was the CEO, owner, and founder of Airtel Nigeria, one of the biggest telecommunication network company in Nigeria. That made him the second richest man in the city of Lagos after the governor of the state. Yes, Oba. Please have a seat. Mr. Chinubu gestured at the leather chairs arranged before his desk. Obafemi picked one, and sat down. Is there a problem? Obafemi asked curiously. I need to talk to you about this company. Obafemi's shoulders slumped. That was definitely not his favorite topic. Killowed. What about it, Dad? Your assistant, Shelley, sent her resignation letter to me. Mr. Chinubu blurted. Obafemi winced. Why? Because you have been harassing her sexually. Must you penetrate everything, Oba? With the way you are going, I won't be surprised if you penetrate your fellow man one day. Daddy, did you call me up here to insult me? Obafemi asked sternly. I have had numerous complaints filed against you from female staffers, and I am tired. Mr. Chinubu paused and passed a hand over his face. Oba, this can't go on. I have been trying to groom you to take over as the CEO of this company when I retire someday, but with this dirty lifestyle of yours, I can't even trust you to handle this company for 2 days. What are you saying? Are you trying to say that I am useless? Obafemi asked, feeling irritated at the guilt that began to gnaw at him. I am not above admitting my mistakes, Obafemi. You shouldn't be above that too. What mistakes exactly? I gave you everything on a platter of gold, because I thought you would naturally walk in my footsteps and become what the company needed. You love women, so why not use your head? Or better still, get married to Obafemi. I gave you too much, too soon. But now, I will put the brakes on and let you earn your place. I don't care if you're my son. I won't allow you to ruin my legacy. Obafemi chuckled and clapped his hands dramatically. Coming from a 62-year-old man who was having an affair with his secretary, who is 24 years old. He chuckled again. Who are you to judge me when you're cheating on your wife, my mother? When you were planning on traveling to Dubai tonight with that Ishau Kobo that calls herself Judith. A girl that is old enough to be your daughter. Mr. Chinubu stood up immediately and gave Obafemi a head-turning slap. You have no right to insult me. Esi Amagoni. He yelled. Obafemi grumbled and pushed to his feet. Daddy, Mafi bread komi lomiab. You were the last person to advise me, and I am glad I failed at becoming someone like you. He spat, and slammed the door on his way out. Obafemi was outside the company now, and he looked up at the huge steel building with no amount of trepidation. Since Obafemi found himself with all kinds of extra time now, he called Shorla or Shulzi to tell her that he could meet her earlier in the day. The girl was gleeful and arranged to meet him at a popular VIP club at 3 p.m. The club was owned by Obafemi's best friend, Prince Akindle, and Obafemi had an open invitation to pop in whenever he wanted. There was no better place to hide his extracurricular from his girlfriend, Obafemi. Obafemi had known Prince Akindle since they were both toddlers. They were from one of the influential families in Lagos, and they had been thick as thieves since childhood. They were a force to be reckoned with, a duo of boys with the kind of gross charisma that repelled and attracted their peers to them in equal measure. When Obafemi walked into the club just before 3 o'clock, Prince looked up from the bar and groaned. Don't tell me you're here to hide another dirty little secret. Obafemi gave him a charming grin in reply. A beg rest. If you want me to hook you up, just ask. Don't think I'm ignoring how you are using my club to hide your indiscretions. Prince rolled his eyes. Why are you acting like this? Why do you care what I do? Because your girlfriend is a nice person, and I don't like what you are doing to her. If you are no more interested in the relationship, then break up with her and stop deceiving her. Why are you even drinking Panadol for my own headache? Obafemi is not here, so it's not hurting her. Obafemi shrugged, but the irritation remained. He was getting lectured by his best friend too? Since when had today become Dump on Obafemi Day? Knock, knock. A tiny voice echoed through the empty club. Both men turned to see a light-skinned girl in a skimpy dress lingering by the door. She smiled at the both of them, batting her long eyelashes. I hope I'm not interrupting something? Not at all, Shorla. Obafemi smiled at her, and turned to Prince with a pleading face. Can I use your office for a little while? His friend looked unhappy with the idea, but he waved them off. Prince's disgust was clear, but Obafemi wasn't going to let it damper his time with the lovely Miss Shorla. He led her up the stairs and down the staff hallway to the office, and closed the blinds while Shorla situated herself on the sofa. Do you want a drink, Shorla? He asked her. No. I am supposed to be back home early, Oba. She replied. And my name is Simi, not Shorla. I am sorry, my love. Shorla oh, Simi oh. All of them is the same. Obafemi chuckled. Simi rolled her eyes at him, and whipped her tiny tight dress off her body. She was completely naked, except for her heels. 5 minutes later, Obafemi remembered why he had kept Simi's number on his phone. He didn't typically go for repeats, except for Simi. He moved her to the desk, bent her over the surface, and slammed into her the way he liked. Simi was incredible, writhing, moaning, and generally acting like his dick was the best thing she had ever had inside her. Regardless of whether it was an act or not, Obafemi's ego enjoyed it. His favorite was when she praised his dick for being as big as a hammer, and called him Odogwa. Obafemi was enjoying Simi so much that he didn't notice when someone walked in. Nor did he hear the stunned gasp that followed, nor the sound of his name being called out. Obafemi Chinabu. Abeni's voice cut through the fog of lust currently residing in Obafemi's brain, and he looked towards the office door before he pulled out and yanked his pants up to cover himself. Simi was still disoriented and a bit slower to cover herself. Are you kidding me right now? Abeni's hazel eyes snapped with angry fire as she glared at him. Obafemi. What are you doing here? Obafemi asked. He had no lame excuse, because he was caught red-handed. Oba, why is she disturbing us? Simi sighed. Obafemi glanced over to see that Simi had pulled her dress back on, but right there, he could not deal with her and his angry girlfriend. You better go, he told Simi as gentle as he could manage. Which, judging from the crestfallen expression on Simi's face, wasn't as gentle as he could have been. Simi frowned and straightened her spine. Fine, but don't you dare call me again. Try it and see if all the Amadioha in Igbo land will not strike you. She yelled as she stalked out of the office, and slammed the door behind her. Obafemi winced and turned to look at his girlfriend, Obafemi, who was staring at him with an irritated eye. I am so sorry, Obafemi. This is the work of the devil. Oh, please. Even the devil is tired of all these false accusations, Oba. Obafemi spat. Obafemi sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. Obafemi, I fucked up. I'm sorry. I came here because I wanted to cheer you up. I called you several times, but you weren't picking, so I called your mother and she told me you had an argument with your father, and thought you might be upset and that I could help cheer you up. I figured you would come here to have a drink and talk with Prince. Until 5 minutes ago, I felt sorry for you. Obafemi stayed quiet. There was nothing he could say that wouldn't dig him deeper into this hole. However, he realized that he was more upset that he was caught than the fact that he had hurt Obafemi. Somehow, that made him feel worse, because he knew that was a shitty way to feel about someone he was supposed to love. What the hell is wrong with you, Oba? Killowed. What is it that you are looking for in these girls that I don't have? The same girls that look up to me? These girls are always on my giveaway comment section on Instagram. I'm not cut out for this, Obafemi. Cut out for what? Being a decent human being? For this. A career, commitment, being faithful, and marriage. These are things you and my parents want, but that's not me, Obafemi argued, feeling his own ire rising. You're saying that justifies cheating on me with a bimbo like that? And God knows how many others? No. Yes. I don't know, Obafemi. All I know is that I don't feel bad about it. We can't continue like this. It's not fair for you or for me. Obafemi threw his arms in the air as he finally realized how true his words were. This whole thing, this relationship is a huge fucking mistake. Oba, please don't talk like that. I have forgiven you. Obafemi's tone softened immediately. She leaned in and kissed him softly. Obafemi knew deep down that this would be the last time. He pulled away from her and stared at her. I have cheated on you so many times that I have lost count, Obafemi. I know you didn't do it to hurt me. You've always been a charmer, and I know that you don't love these girls like you love me. So it's okay. You're fine with it? Obafemi raised an eyebrow. Obafemi, how can you be okay with that? Can't you see that you deserve better? What I deserve is you, Oba. Of course, it hurts to think of it, but I can separate these meaningless affairs with what we have. I love you, Oba, Obafemi trembled. No, you love the idea of me. You want people to hail and respect you because you are dating the son of Chinabu. You like the ideal person you wish I could be, and you want to ignore the parts that don't fit. It's over between us, Obafemi. This is not working. No. You can't do this to me, Oba. What will people say? What will our 5 million followers on Instagram and TikTok say? What will my friends say? Obafemi cried, protectively holding her arms around her waist. It can't end like this. You and me. We're meant to be together. We've been through too much for it to end this way. Obafemi sighed. Maybe the reason we have been through so much was because we were never meant to be in the first place. You just caught me red-handed with another woman and you want to ignore that because of what people might say? I am not ready to be faithful to one woman, not even you, Obafemi. Not when there are so many of them in this city. I am sorry. Obafemi sniffled and wiped the tears on her face. Her anger started to rise as she confronted Obafemi reproachfully. Maybe you are right. I deserve better than you. She angrily wiped her tears, balling her fists as her tone turned bitter. I have allowed you to hurt me for years, pretending that it was fine. Just because of your status, your background, your looks, and our followers. You're an idiot, Oba. And if I were your father, I would adopt a son to replace you because you're so useless. Obafemi's words hurt like arrows directed at Obafemi's heart. I wanted to believe there was a better man inside you. I thought time would make you realize you needed to grow up, but I have a clearer picture now. You will never have your life together. Obafemi chuckled and then turned and walked out of the office. Obafemi felt sorry for hurting her, but he knew that in the end, he had done this as much for her as for him. It was ironic in a way, but this breakup was probably the most respectful thing he had ever done concerning her. He wasn't sure if he had ever been in love with her, but there had been feelings. But those feelings had never been enough for him to put her in the front and at the center of his life. Obafemi deserved much better than him, and probably needed time to figure it all by herself as well. Prince was absolutely not surprised when Obafemi came down into the club and told him what had happened. Honestly, if Obafemi didn't know that it was his mother that had sent Obafemi to find him, he might have thought that Prince called Obafemi to catch him in the act. Prince sent out one of the waitresses to pick up some food at a restaurant, and they ate it at the bar just before the club opened. They didn't talk about Obafemi, or about his job, thankfully. Obafemi needed some time when someone wasn't lecturing him on how much of a disappointment he was. Instead, they talked about sports, movies, and the club. "I'm spending this weekend with my family," Prince whispered. "My little sister is really jazzed to have me over." Prince's little sister, Baisala, was home for the holidays and had been bugging him to spend some time with her. "Oh, Baisala. She done graduate? She gets strength today study law, honestly." Obafemi chuckled. Prince snorted. "Considering how you blew off college and your father had to bribe all the lecturers to get you that certificate. Hey, just stop it." Obafemi rolled his eyes at him. Few hours later, the club was filled with people and Prince got very busy. Obafemi didn't dance, and he didn't even mingle very much. What he did was drink. He embraced the oblivion that vodka provided for him. At one point, Prince took a break from his duties to stop by his table. "Oba, how many you don't drink?" he asked, gesturing at Obafemi's glass. "Fourth. Fifth," Obafemi whispered. "Oh, maybe it is time to switch to water." Obafemi gave him a look. "Water? Why would I want to do that? I'm just getting started." He grinned at the waitress who brought him a new glass. Prince stopped the waitress and glared at her. "Don't bring drinks for him again." "What the hell, Prince? When did you become my dad?" Obafemi grumbled as he took a healthy swig of his drink. "When you stopped giving a shit about yourself, apparently," Prince replied. "You need to go home, Obafemi." "Really?" Another waitress brought another drink over, and Prince took it from her before she could hand it to Obafemi. Obafemi lurched to his feet, trying to ignore how the room swam and tipped as he gained his feet. "Give me that," he growled. Prince sighed and held the drink out of his reach. "No, Oba. I'm doing you a favor." "Fine." Obafemi yelled and stumbled away. As soon as Obafemi stepped into his large home in Lekki, he started barking orders and slamming things. He poured himself a cup of whiskey and swallowed it in one gulp. The feeling of the hot whiskey going down his throat revived him. He checked his phone, and that was when he saw what Obafemi had posted on her Twitter account. She told her followers that she dumped Obafemi because of his infidelity, and called him a jerk. Twitter was ablaze, partly outrage, and Obafemi's mentions were a mess. To be continued. Please share and subscribe to my YouTube channel to get more updates.